the secret oaths, and the secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
There we are. Good day, everybody. This is UCY.tv with the Solvinur event. I might have been a couple of seconds late. I don't know what happened, but Skype just decided to disconnect me for some reason. Apparently, it's maybe something to do with the update, because when I started the Skype application, it said, wait, update. It's like every update they have, it's like, you still haven't got your product the way you want it, right? It's like it's like the advertisements we used to have at the Dutch TV, where they would advertise for this powder that you would put in your machine for your washing clothes, and every time it was now better and now whiter and now better, right? In other words, crap you sold us, before. And just kept on going for years and years and years. Okay, thanks, Matty. What's up, everybody? This is the Solvinur radio event. I am your host, Walter, coming to you from Holland. I got my coffee. Ta-da, coffee. And my cigarette. Ta-da. So you should be able to call in, at least I hope Skype hasn't fracked that up again, 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296, or you can contact me at Skype, Solvinur, Solvinur. So today is the 24th of September 2016. I put the date stamp on. Ta-da! Check out the website ucy.tv. You will find there a chat link. Couple of people already there. Actually, it's more than usual. Captain, Desert, Grump, Java, Juanataco, Jules, Matty, Sir Otto, Vincent, and 8 Anons. Welcome everybody. 7 Anons. It sucks when you're an Anon, you have to relog every 15 minutes or so if you don't type. Yeah. Blah, blah. Hey Del, welcome buddy. So, today we're going to get into Upanishads. Apparently they were translated for the first time around 1600 by some Muslim guy, I think. We'll get to that. in the introduction that I'm going to read. Yep. But like I said, you can always change the topic, call in if you want, 718-717-8296. Let's see, where is that window that I opened here? It is. This is introduction to the Upanishads. And apparently Schopenhauer is going to be talked about here at some point, because I see his name here at the top. There's 3, I guess. Dara Shuko, I don't know. Anquitel Duperon, or something like that. And Mr. Schopenhauer is a German philosopher. The ancient Vedic literature, the foundation of the whole literature of India, which has landed down in that country in an unbroken succession from the earliest times, within the recollection of men, to the present day, became known first, for the first time, beyond the frontiers of India through the Upanishads. Okay, so what they're telling you here is that their scriptures are a representation, a copy, I guess, of the orally passed down stories. And these go back thousands of years. So it is to be understood that these people, although apparently spiritually very advanced, did not seem to write. And I asked about that, and the answer was that in those days, and then we're talking thousands of years ago, at least 5,000, but probably more, 7,000 years ago. In those days, people didn't need to write down, because their memory was functioning in such a way that they could recite anything they heard. So it was not necessary to write things down. But the memory of man started to deteriorate, also due to the age of Kali, or the coming age of Kali, which was about 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, according to some of their mythologies. Not everybody will agree on that, by the way. Right, so before that time, their memory was so good that they didn't need to write. The Upanishads were translated from Sanskrit into Persian by, or it may be for, Dara Shuko, the eldest son of Shah Jahan, an enlightened prince who openly professed the liberal religious tenets of the great emperor Akbar, and even wrote a book intended to reconcile the religious doctrines of Hindus and Mohammedans. He seems first to have heard of the Upanishads during his stay in Kashmir in 1640. He afterwards invited several Pandits from Benares to Delhi, who were to assist him in the work of translation. The translation was finished in 1657, 3 years After the accomplishment of this work, in 1659 the prince was put to death by his brother Aurangzeb. In reality, no doubt, because he was the eldest son of legitimate successor of Shah Jahan, but under the pretext that he was an infidel and dangerous to the established religion of the empire. When the Upanishads had once been translated from Sanskrit into Persian, at that time the most widely read language of the East and understood likewise by many European scholars, they became generally accessible to all who took an interest in the religious literature of India. It is true that under Akbar's reign, 1556 to 1586, similar translations had been prepared, but neither those nor the translations of Darashuko attracted the attention of European scholars till the year 1775. In that year, Anquetil Duperron, the famous traveler and discoverer of the Zend-Avesta, received one, I don't know what it is, capital M, capital S dot, of the Persian translation of the Upanishads, sent to him by M. Gentil, the French resident at the court of Shuda ad-Dawlu, and brought to France by M. Bernier. After receiving another MS, Anquetil Duperron collated the two and translated the Persian translation into French, which is not published, and into Latin. The Latin translation was published in 1801 and 1802 under the title of Upnecat, id est secretum tegendum. Okay, more of those words that I can't understand, so I'm going to skip all of that. Christ, what a title. It's like 25, 30 words or so. This translation yeah, hello Matty. This translation, though it attracted considerable interest among scholars, was written in so utterly unintelligible a style that it required the links like perspicacity, I don't know, something like that, perspicacity of an intrepid. Yeah. I can understand why that translation was so unintelligible. Did you guys hear me read the word-for-word translations? It doesn't make sense, right? If you read it like that. Anyway, that it required the links like perspicacity of an intrepid philosopher such as Schopenhauer to discover a thread through such a labyrinth. Schopenhauer, however, not only found and followed such a thread, but he had the courage to proclaim to an incredulous age the vast treasures of thought which were lying buried beneath the fearful jargon. As Anquetil Duperron's volumes have become scarce, I shall here give a short specimen of his translation, which corresponds to the first sentences of my translation of the Khandogya Upanishad. And then there's a lot of Sanskrit words, which I'm not going to read. Schopenhauer not only read this translation carefully, but he makes no secret of it, that his own philosophy is powerfully impregnated by the fundamental doctrines of the Upanishads. He dwells on it again and again, and it seems both fair to Schopenhauer's memory and highly important for a true appreciation of the philosophical value of the Upanishads to put together what that vigorous thinker has written on those ancient rhapsodies of truth. Right? So, they're telling us here that these Upanishads first came to us in like 1657, or what did they say, 1658? And a scholar's only attention, 1700 something? That cannot be correct. I know for a fact that a lot of Plato's philosophy is based on what comes out of India, so they knew then too. And since they are supposed to be the founders of our so-called Western society, in his, this is about Schopenhauer again, whom I've been compared to, by the way. Yeah. In his Welt als Wille und Vorstellung, he writes in the preface to the first edition, if the reader has also received the benefit of the Vedas, the access by means of the Upanishads is in my eyes the greatest privilege which this still young century, that was in 1818, may claim before all previous centuries, for I anticipate that the influence of Sanskrit literature will not be less profound than the revival of Greek in the 14th century. If then the reader, I say, has received his initiation in primeval Indian wisdom and received it with an open heart, he will be prepared in the very best way for hearing what I have to tell him. I will not sound to him strange, as to many others, much less disagreeable, for I might, if I did not sound conceited, contend that every one of the detached statements which constitute the Upanishads may be deduced as a necessary result from the fundamental thoughts which I have to enunciate, though those deductions themselves are by no means to be found there. And again, if I consider how difficult it is, even with the assistance of the best and carefully educated teachers, and with all the excellent philological appliances collected in the course of this century, to arrive at a really correct, accurate, and living understanding of Greek and Roman authors, whose language was after all the language of our own predecessors in Europe, and the mother of our own, while Sanskrit, on the contrary, was spoken thousands of years ago in distant India, and can be learned only with appliances which are yet very imperfect. If I add to this the impression which the translations of the Sanskrit works by European scholars, which with very few exceptions produce on my mind, I cannot resist a certain suspicion that our Sanskrit scholars do not understand their text much better than the higher class of schoolboys their Greek. Of course, as they are not boys but men of knowledge and understanding, they put together out of what they do understand, something like what the general meaning may have been. But much probable creeps in ex ingenio. It is still worse with the Chinese of our European sinologues. Wow. Too many difficult words. If I then consider, on the other hand, that Sultan Mohammed Dara Shuko, the brother of Aurangzeb, was born and bred in India, was a learned, thoughtful and inquiring man, and therefore probably understood his Sanskrit about as well as we our Latin, then, moreover, he was assisted by a number of most learned pandits. All this together gave me at once a very high opinion of this translation of the Vedic Upanishads into Persian. Yeah, indeed. If, besides this, I see with what profound and quite appropriate reverence Anquetil Duperon has treated that Persian translation, rendering it in Latin word by word, retaining, in spite of Latin grammar, the Persian syntax and all the Sanskrit words which the Sultan himself had left untranslated, though explaining them in a glossary, I feel the most perfect confidence in reading that translation, and that confidence soon receives its most perfect justification. For how entirely does the Upanishad breathe throughout the Holy Spirit of the Vedas? How is every one who, by a diligent study of its Persian Latin, has become familiar with that incomparable book, stirred by that spirit to the very depths of his soul? How does every line display its firm, definite, and throughout harmonious meaning? From every sentence, deep, original, and sublime thoughts arise, and the whole is pervaded by a high and holy and earnest spirit. Welcome, Chalcedony. Hold on, guys. And oh, how thoroughly is the mind here washed clean of all early engrafted Jewish superstitions, and of all philosophy that cringes before those superstitions. In the whole world there is no study, except that of the originals, so beneficial and so elevating as that of the Upanishad. I'm thinking that Upanishad is Upanishad. I mean, etymologically it's perfectly sound. It has been the solace of my life, it will be the solace of my death. Though I feel the highest regard for the religious and philosophical works of Sanskrit literature, I have not been able to derive much pleasure from their poetical compositions. Nay, they seem to me sometimes as tasteless and monstrous as the sculptures of India. In most of the pagan philosophical writers of the first Christian centuries we see the Jewish theism, which, as Christianity, was soon to become the faith of the people, shining through much as, at present, we may perceive shining through in the writings of the learned, the native pantheism of India, which is destined sooner or later to become the faith of the people. Ex oriente lux. Ex is out, oriente is orient, lux is light. And I never studied Greek, you know. This is just thinking for yourself and a bit of etymology. This may seem strong language, and in some respects too strong, but I thought it right to quote it here, because, whatever may be urged against Schopenhauer, he was a thoroughly honest thinker and honest speaker, and no one would suspect him of any predilection for what has been so readily called Indian mysticism. That Schelling and his school should use rapturous language about the Upanishads might carry little weight with that large class of philosophers by whom everything beyond the clouds of their own horizon is labeled mysticism. But that Schopenhauer should have spoken of the Upanishads as products of the highest wisdom, Ausgeburt der höchsten Weisheit, that he should have placed the pantheism there thought high above the pantheism of Bruno, Malebranche, Spinoza, and Scotus Erigena, as brought to light again at Oxford in 1681, may perhaps secure a more considerate reception for these relics of ancient wisdom than anything I could say in their favor. Alright, so that was an introduction. And we're going to pick it up in the Khandogya Upanishad. And, I don't know if we're going to complete this, but we're at least going to get started with it and do like 10, 8, 12, who knows, 16 weeks or so, at least. So this is the Khandogya Upanishad, first Prapataka, first Kanda. Alright, Kanda is I think it's chapter, but it could also be book. And then Prapataka would be a series of books. Right. This is about the word Om. It's the first sloka. I think they call it sloka, one verse. And there's also a footnote with the title. The Khandogya Upanishad begins with recommending meditations on the syllable Om, a sacred syllable that had to be pronounced at the beginning of each Veda and of every recitation of Vedic hymns. As connected with the Samaveda, the syllable Om is called Udgita. Its more usual name is Pranava. The object of the Upanishads is to explain the various meanings which the syllable Om may assume in the minds of a devotee. Some of them being extremely artificial and senseless, till at last the highest meaning of Om is reached, viz. Brahman, the intelligent cause of the universe. So, 1. Let a man meditate on the syllable Om, called the Udgita, for the Udgita, a portion of the Samaveda, is sung beginning with Om. Another footnote. Akshara means both syllable and the imperishable, i.e. Brahman. didn't see the word akshara in here, anyway. There's no word-for-word thingy here, or even Sanskrit in English letters. It continues, the full account, however, of Om is this. The essence of all beings is the earth. The essence of earth is water. The essence of water, the plants. The essence of plants, man. The essence of man, speech. The essence of speech, the Rig Veda. The essence of the Rig Veda, the Samaveda. The essence of the Samaveda, the Udgita, which is Om. Alright. Another footnote. The footnote 3, essence, rasa, is explained in different ways, as origin, support, end, cause, and effect. Rasa means originally the sap of trees. That sap may be conceived either as the essence extracted from the trees, or as what gives vigor and life to a tree. In the former case, it might be transferred to the conception of the effect, in the latter to that of the cause. In our sentence, it has sometimes the one, sometimes the other meaning. Earth is the support of all beings. Water pervades the earth. Plants arise from water. Man lives by plants. Speech is the best part of man. Rig Veda is the best part of speech. The Samaveda is the best extract from the Rig. That's the Rig Veda. Udgita, or the syllable Om, the crown of the Samaveda. Brings us to 3. The Udgita, Om, is the best of all essences, the highest, deserving the highest place, the 8th. 4. Then what is Rig? What is Saman? What is the Udgita? This is the question. 5. The Rig indeed is speech. Saman is breath. The Udgita is the syllable Om. Now speech and breath, or Rig and Saman, form one couple. 6. And that couple is joined together in the syllable Om. When two people come together, they fulfill each other's desire. 7. Thus, he who knowing this meditates on the syllable Om, the Udgita, becomes indeed a fulfiller of desires. 8. That syllable is a syllable of permission, for whenever we permit anything, we say Om. Yes. Now, permission is gratification. He who knowing this meditates on the syllable Om, the Udgita, becomes indeed a gratifier of desires. 9. But that syllable does the threefold knowledge, the sacrifice, more particularly the Soma sacrifice, as founded on the 3 Vedas. Proceed. By that syllable does the threefold knowledge proceed. When the Advaryu priest gives an order, he says Om. When the Hotri priest recites, he says Om. When the Udgatri priest sings, he says Om. All for the glory of that syllable. The threefold knowledge, the sacrifice, proceeds by the greatness of that syllable, the vital breaths, and by its essence, the oblations. 10. Now therefore it would seem to follow that both he who knows this the true meaning of the syllable Om, and he who does not perform the same sacrifice. But this is not so, for knowledge and ignorance are different. The sacrifice which a man performs with knowledge, faith, and the Upanishads is more powerful. Thus is the full account of the syllable Om. Interesting, right? They're talking about sacrifices. Yeah, that's it's also electrical resistance, right? Not sure where that name comes from. Could have been by some guy who invented something about electricity or something. This guy was named Ohm or something. Like with volt. But yeah, AUM or OHM. A stands for creation. U stands for keeping it all going. And M stands for destruction, or past, present and future. Let's see. Yeah, talking about sacrifice. They sacrifice these people to their gods, right? You hear stories from India where women will sacrifice stuff to their to this god. I can't remember his name, but supposedly this god will then make sure she gets a good husband, right? We'll probably get back to this sacrifice thing, but I think it's bad. Yep. I mean, a sacrifice. I'm a chess player, right? If you sacrifice something on the chessboard, like a knight or maybe even a rook or a queen, whatever, not your king anyway. If you sacrifice a piece, it means that in a few moves you see a better position for yourself. But that's you can see that on the board. You can see it happening in your head. But with these sacrifices that they're talking about, they are just assuming that there is this creature somewhere up in the sky or wherever, which actually sees you doing this sacrifice, takes notice, and actually accepts it also. Right? So I think that's kind of arrogant. Yeah, I think that's a childish way of thinking also. Yeah. Sacrifice is like when we used to be hunter-gatherers, we might have sacrificed some piece of meat for a trap, right? That's okay. There's no problem with that. But this is just insane what these people are talking about. That's where you get these insane stories on the television about, I think this guy's name was Jones or something. But the story was that all of these people had committed suicide, right? That's the story you get on the news. But that doesn't seem to be correct. Most of them seem to have been killed. Right? But that you get that kind of nonsense. Once you start believing in their idea of sacrifice, there's no stopping. It ends in ridiculousness and murder, death, kill, sacrifice, right? Moving on to the next one. Second Kanda. When the Devas and Asuras struggled together, both of the race of Pragapati, the Devas took the Udgita, thinking they would vanquish the Asuras with it. Right? This, Devas and Asuras are like angels and demons. They meditate on the Udgita as the breath or scent in the nose, but the Asuras pierced it, the breath, with evil. Therefore we smell by the breath in the nose both what is good smelling and what is bad smelling, for the breath was pierced by evil. Nice. Then they meditated on the Udgita as speech, but the Asuras pierced it with evil. Therefore we speak both truth and falsehood, for speech is pierced by evil. And they still don't get it, right? This is how you can see that this is not to be taken literally, but you got to see what it says, right? Then they meditated on the Udgita as the eye. See, that's how you can see that this is not to be taken literally, because in Dutch we say, een ezel in het algemeen stoot zich niet 2 keer aan dezelfde steen, which translates roughly like a donkey usually doesn't hit its head for the second time on the same stone, right? If you notice that this trick with the ohm isn't working twice, why would you repeat it a third time, right? These are just a little things that you can get out of this. So they tried it as the eye, but the Asuras pierced it with evil. Therefore, we see both what is sightly and unsightly, for the eye is pierced by evil. Then they meditated on the Udgita as the ear, but the Asuras pierced it with evil. Therefore, we hear both what should be heard and what should not be heard, for the car is pierced by evil. Here again, that strange translation. The car. You guys remember months and months ago I was doing this kind of stuff also. And it also said car in the translation, and I was like, no, that's no car, that's a chariot. Right? They didn't have cars in those days. So what are we supposed to think here? Vehicle, vessel, chariot? What is it? Right? And they're talking about senses here. They're talking about they meditated on the Om as the ear. Right? They're talking about sound. So what does a car have to do with this? Is there some kind of translation for the word car that I'm not aware of or something? Yeah. So we've had the 5 senses, right? Which can also be earth, water, air, fire, and ether. Although one could say there are actually 4 senses. Remember, with nose and smell are like one. There are twins. That's why in the 5 brothers, who fought the war at Kurukshetra. There are 2 twins in there. Or 1 twin, actually. And then ether would be the one for mind. And that's indeed next. Then they meditated on the Udgata as the mind, but the Asuras pierced it with evil. Therefore we conceive both what should be conceived and what should not be conceived. For the mind is pierced by evil. Yeah. Now note here that now for the second time they're talking about what should not be heard and what should not be conceived. Right? They're talking about a definite moral base here, which up to now is not known, right? But definitely they are talking from some kind of moral basis, because they are saying what should not be heard and what should not be conceived, and also what should be heard and what should not be heard. This leads to the kind of New Age crap that you get. Like, no, I don't want to hear the negative. Do you get that from some people? You know, they don't want to see the negative. So again, you know, I'm like, no, this is not correct. Not in the day we live in. This stuff is old, right? This is 5,000 to 7,000 years old. I don't know what kind of society these people were living in, but it's nothing like what it is today. And if today you close your mind to that which is evil, it will run over you and kill you. It's as simple as that, right? So, you know, I don't know what kind of quote-unquote philosophy, you know, that is, but it's not usable for today. Then comes this breath of life in the mouth. They meditated on the Udgata as the breath. When the Asuras came to it, they were scattered, as a ball of earth would be scattered when hitting a solid stone. Thus, as a ball of earth is scattered when hitting on a solid stone, will he be scattered who wishes evil to one who knows this, or who persecutes him, for he is a solid stone? So what's that about? By it, the breath in the mouth, he distinguishes neither what is good nor what is bad smelling, for that breath is free from evil. What we eat and drink with it supports the other vital breaths, i.e. the senses, such as smell, etc., which at the time of death he does not find that breath in the mouth, through which he eats and drinks and lives. Then he departs. He opens the mouth at the time of death, as if wishing to eat. Angiras meditated on the Om as that breath, and people hold it to be Angiras, i.e. the essence of the members. Therefore, Brihaspati meditated on Udgita, Om, as that breath, and people hold it to be Brihaspati, for speech is Brihati, and he, that breath, is the Lord Pati of speech. Therefore, Ayashya meditated on the Udgita, Om, as that breath, and people hold it to be Ayashya, because it comes, Ayati, from the mouth, Aishya. Therefore, Vaka Dalbia knew it. He was the Udgatri, singer of the Naimishya sacrificers, and by singing he obtained from them their wishes. He who knows this and meditates on the syllable Om as the breath of life in the mouth, he obtains all wishes by singing. So much for the Udgita, Om, as meditated on with reference to the body. Let's see if the footnotes, if we need to read any of that. Chupa chupa chupa. Moving on to next. Blah blah. Hold on, guys. If you like, you can call in 718-717-8296 or contact me at Skype, Solvinur, SOLVINUR. Continuing, now follows the meditation on the Udgita with reference to the gods. Let a man meditate on the Udgita as he who sends warmth, the sun in the sky. When the sun rises, it sings as Udgatri for the sake of all creatures. When it rises, it destroys the fear of darkness. He who knows this is able to destroy the fear of darkness. Yeah. So to me, this sounds like a reference to in the days long, long ago when we didn't even control fire. Right? The savior of the day was the sun. I'm guessing a bit influenced by Bill Cooper here. And also the movie 2001 comes to mind. Next, this, the breath in the mouth, and that, the sun, are the same. This is hot, and that is hot. This they call svara, sound, and that they call pratyasvara, reflected sound. Therefore, let a man meditate on Udgita as this and that, as breath and as sun. I think this is the footnote that belongs to it. As applied to breath, svara is explained by the commentator in the sense of moving, going out. Pratyasvara, as applied to the sun, is explained as returning every day. More likely, however, svara is applied to breath means sound. Om itself being called svara and prasvara in the Rigveda Pratishakya As applied to the sun, svara and pratyasvara were probably taken in the sense of light and reflected light. Yeah. Reflected light. You know, I'm thinking that this reminds me of surely you just we had a discussion, or not a discussion, just a change of ideas about what light is, and I liked what you had to say. You know, so I couldn't discount it at first hand. You know, that's ridiculous. No. And here they're talking about the sun and reflecting of light. And it reminds me of a story they told me about where light comes from. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about light that comes from a flame, or light that comes from a neotube, or your car lights, or the sun, or a star. It doesn't matter, or the moon. All that light comes from the same source. It's all coming from God. And that there's something happening either in the sun or in space. I'm thinking space. There's something happening in space that makes light visible for us. Like Shirley said. That's why I like her ideas so much, because it kind of fits in with what they told me about light from Eastern philosophy. Yeah. Then it continues, then let a man meditate on the Udgita, Om, as Vijnana indeed. If we breathe up, that is prana, the up-breathing. If we breathe down, that is apana, the down-breathing. The combination of prana and apana is Vijnana, back-breathing or holding in of the breath. This Vijnana is speech. Therefore we utter speech. We neither breathe up nor down. Speech is rik, and therefore when a man utters a rik verse, he neither breathes up nor down. Rik is saman, and therefore when a man utters a saman verse, he neither breathes up nor down. Saman is Udgita, and therefore when a man sings the Udgita, he neither breathes up nor down. And other words also which require strength, such as the production of fire by rubbing, other works, right? Running a race, stringing a strong bow, are performed without breathing up or down. Therefore let the man meditate on the Udgita, Om, as Vijnana. Alright, so the production of fire by rubbing, that sounds like prehistoric action, right? Running a race does not. I mean, why would you run a race? I mean, does that, I'm sorry guys, but sports? Seriously? What did they say in Rome? Bread and games? Right, so I don't know why running a race is in here. Maybe they were running just to practice. For hunting, see? Then stringing a strong bow. Now there we go. That's like a jump in advancement, in technical advancement, right? Next, let a man meditate on the syllables of the Udgita, i.e. of the word Udgita. Ud is breath, prana, for by means of breath a man rises. Utishati, something like that. G is speech, for speeches are called jira. Ta is food, for by means of food all subsist, shtita. Ut is heaven, G the sky, Ta the earth. Ut is the sun, G is the air, Ta the fire. Ut is the Samaveda, G the Yajur Veda, Ta the Rig Veda. Speech yields the milk, which is the milk of speech itself. To him who thus knowing meditates on those syllables of the name of Udgita, he becomes rich in food and able to eat food. Next follows the fulfillment of prayers. Yeah, that's something like sacrifice also, right? Falls in the same category. Let a man thus meditate on the upasaranas, i.e. the object which have to be approached by meditation. Let him, the Udgatri, quickly reflect on the Saman with which he is going to praise. Let him quickly reflect on the rig in which the Saman occurs, on the Rishi, poet, by whom it was seen or composed, on the Devata, object, which he is going to praise, on the meter in which he is going to praise, on the tune with which he is going to sing for himself, on the quarter of the world which he is going to praise. Lastly, having approached himself, his name, family, etc., by meditation, let him sing the hymn of praise, reflecting on his desire and avoiding all mistakes in pronunciation, etc. Quickly will the desire be then fulfilled to him, for the sake of which he may have offered his hymn of praise, yea, for which he may have offered his hymn of praise. Alright, so the only thing that springs out for me is like, lastly, having approached himself, his name, family, etc., is like they used to have this here in Netherlands also, and I'm quite sure it was like everywhere in the Western world, is that when you introduce yourself, you would tell who your parents were. And somehow it has to do with your family name. And that if you acted badly, you would damage your family name, you see. That's one thing. But also, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that aspect of it, to be honest with you. But when it comes to when you introduce yourself and you have to tell your parents' name and so on, it's that the receiver of this information will then judge you based on who your parents are, based on what caste you are born. And I think that's disgusting, to be honest with you. And a whole lot of footnotes. And don't think it's going to be wise to read all of these footnotes. Next. Oh, by the way, it's 17:05. If you hadn't noticed, there haven't been any ads. No interruptions by commercial shizzle. So go to ucy.tv and find donate button all the way at the bottom. And help Jules out pay for this stuff. And I'm thinking about making myself some coffee. And I still haven't fixed my audio problems yet. I don't know when I will get to that. It's unlikely I will, actually, for the coming few weeks. So you might have to suffer some dead air for a little while. Not long. A couple of seconds or so. You can call in if you like, 718-717-8296. 718-717-8296, or you can contact me at Skype. Solvinur, Solvinur, and I'll drag you on air. Yep. This is not a podcast. Yeah. Jup 4. Let a man meditate on the syllable Om, for the Ud Gita is sung beginning with Om, and this is the full account of the syllable Om. Yeah, that's what I should have done before I started reading. I should have recited 3 times Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, since the last word you heard there, Vasudeva, is the name of the person that supposedly wrote the stuff all down. Or at least parts of it. Specifically the Mahabharata. But I was told it was good to do that reading any of the Vedas. So, full account of the syllable Om. The Devas, being afraid of death, entered upon the performance of the sacrifice prescribed in the threefold knowledge, the 3 Vedas. Wow. So the Devas, who I told you were like angels, as opposed to the Asuras, who are like demons. So the Devas now are afraid of death, right? Now why would you be afraid of death if you're an angel? Are you afraid something bad's gonna happen to you? You know, if anybody's supposed to be afraid of death, it's the Asuras, right? That's what you would logically think, anyway. But they are afraid of death. And then, again, they perform sacrifice. Strange, right? You would think that these Devas were like enlightened beings, and that they would be able to use their philosophy to get rid of this ridiculous fear of death, right? They covered themselves with the metrical hymns, because they covered themselves with the hymns, therefore the hymns are called kandas. Because cover means cut. I added that. I can see that here. 3. Then, as a fisherman might observe a fish in water, Death observed the Devas in the Rig, Yugas, and Saman sacrifices. And the Devas, seeing this, rose from the Rig, Yugas, and Saman sacrifices and entered the Svara, i.e. the Om. They meditated on the Om. When a man has mastered the Rig Veda, he says quite loud Om. The same when he has mastered the Saman and the Yugas. This Svara is imperishable. And brackets open, syllable, brackets close. The immortal, free from fear, because the Devas entered it. Therefore they became immortal and free from fear. So now they became immortal. Alright, that doesn't jive with the philosophy that I've been told. Alright, and I understand that this is the usual philosophy in India, is that once you are manifested, I would guess the best word is, you are immortal. And that's basically in contradiction with their idea of things that are and things that are not. They distinguish between them, and I think that's okay to distinguish between these two, right? Ancient Greek philosophers also tried to do that. But however, when they do distinguish between that which exists and that which does not exist, they say that that which exists has no beginning, right? So that's in contradiction with the idea that your soul is manifested at some point. It comes from the rift. That's what they tell me, right? There's this gap or something, and it's unexplainable because we're trying to use material words for something that is non-material, right? So, but they explain that there is a gap somewhere. It's, I think they explained it to me as a gap between that which is and that which is not. And this is called the rift, and that's where souls come from, living beings. Yeah, I got to laugh when I say that, right? These are, in my opinion, these are just stories, right? They're not even, I shouldn't even consider them myth, because in a myth I can at least extract some kind of meaning. But this is just a story. It's like, okay, stop asking questions, right? That's kind of a story, is it? I don't like it. And then the last one here. He who knowing this loudly pronounces pranauti. Pranauti. So here pronounce is, can you hear the etymological tie here, even between English words like pronounce? Pranauti. It is in Sanskrit, pranauti. Pranauti he louds, i.e. the meditation on. Try again. He who knowing this loudly pronounces that syllable, enters the same syllable, the svara, the immortal, free from fear, and having entered it becomes immortal, as the devas are immortal. Right? So what they're trying to tell you here is that this sound, Om, A-U-M or O-U-M, actually A-U-M is more like the way you pronounce it, right? You're supposed to start it with an A, not with an O, anyway. But they're trying to tell you that this sound is immortal. They're trying to tell you that you're actually materializing that which is. Ha, nice one. Just came up with that myself. Because, like I told you a couple of minutes ago, they distinguish between that which is not and that which is. And that which is has no beginning. However, we know that this earth and everything that's living on it had actually a beginning. So we are living in a material world which is actually is not, right? They think this is an illusion. I'm serious about this, guys. That's what they think. They distinguish between that which is, the eternal abode, quote unquote, and that which is not, the material world. And so what they're trying to tell you here is that by uttering this sound Om, you are actually materializing, quote, making death alive. Because the word Om is immortal. The word Om has all these absolute properties. Because it's not from this world. It's from the real world. See? Next. Fifth Kanda. Blah, blah. Do I want to make some coffee? Yes. So, I'm gonna need to fill this water thingy, put it on and so that it gets hot, and put some milk in my coffee cup. And then so that'll take like 30, 40, 50 seconds or so. I'll be right back, guys. Let that prepare for a sec. Fifth Kanda. The Udgita is the Pranava. The Pranava is the Udgita. And as the Udgita is the sun, so is the Pranava. For he, the sun, goes sounding Om. Blah, blah. Next. Him I sang praises to. Therefore art thou my only one. Thus said Kaushitaki to his son. Do thou revolve his race, then thou wilt have many sons. So much in reference to the Devas. Now with reference to the body, let a man meditate on the Udgita as the breath in the mouth. For he goes sounding Om. Hold on, guys. There, it's making coffee. Him I sang praises to, therefore art thou my only son. Thus said Kaushika to his son. Do thou therefore sing praises to the breath as manifold, if thou wishest to have many sons. He who knows that the Udgita is the Pranava and the Pranava Gita recites from the seat of the Hotri priests, any mistake committed by the Udgatri priests in performing the Udgita, yea, in performing the Udgita. Next. 6. Let's see if that coffee is ready. I'm probably the only host that actually goes off air to get some coffee. This is not out of disrespect, guys. Just need something to drink, you know. Yeah, pala, and my sound system is fracked, so I can't like have a little break. Where are we? The Rig Veda is the earth, the Sama Veda is fire. This Saman, fire, rests on that Rig, earth. Therefore the Saman is sung as resting on the Rig. Sa is this earth, Ama is fire, and that makes Sama. The Rig is the sky, the Saman air. This Saman air rests on that Rig, sky. Therefore, the Saman is sung as resting on the Rig. Sa is the sky, Ama the air, and that makes Sama. Rig is heaven, Saman the sun. This Saman, sun, rests on that Rig, heaven. Therefore, the Saman is sung as resting on the Rig. Sa is heaven, Ama the sun, and that makes Sama. This sounds kind of like cosmological, right? 4. Rig is the stars, Saman the moon. This Saman moon rests on that Rig, stars. Therefore the Saman is sung as resting on the Rig. Sa is the stars, Ama the moon, and that makes Sama. Rig is the white light of the sun. Saman the blue exceeding darkness in the sun. This Saman, darkness, rests on the Rig, brightness. Therefore, this Saman is sung as resting on the Rig. Now again, this last one here is another pointer to the fact that darkness rests on brightness, right? In other words, light is everywhere, and something is happening in space which makes it visible. Next, Sa is the white light of the sun, Ama the blue exceeding darkness, and that makes Sama. Now that golden person, who is seen within the sun, with golden beard and golden hair, golden altogether to the very tips of his nails. Yeah? Gold is usually tied to the sun. Yes, like silver is to the moon. Seven, whose eyes are like blue lotuses. His name is Ut, for he has risen. Sanskrit word for risen is Udita. There, his name is Ut. He has risen above all evil. He also, who knows this, rises above all evil. Right? I would, as far as I understand their philosophy, to rise above evil is something you would naturally do. That would be your natural state. Right? 8. Rik and Saman are his joints, and therefore he is Udgita. And therefore he who praises him, the Ud, is called the Udgatri, the outsinger. He, the golden person, called Ud, is Lord of the worlds beyond that, sun, and all of the wishes of the Devas, inhabiting those worlds. So much with reference to the Devas. Next. 7. Lekker. Koffie. Koffie. En een peukje erbij. Appela. 7. Now, with reference to the body. Rik is speech. Saman, breath. This Saman, breath, rests on that Rik, speech. Therefore, the Saman is sung as resting on the Rik. Sa is speech, Ama is breath, and that makes Sama. Rik is the I, Saman the self. This Saman, shadow, rests on that Rik, I. Therefore, the Saman is sung as resting on the Rik. Sa is the I, Ama is the self, and that makes Sama. Wow. Again, here this idea that something about light, right? It says, Rik is the I, Saman the self. This Saman, then brackets open, shadow, brackets close, rests on that Rik, I. This darkness, this shadow, is resting on the I. Strange, huh? And also the apparent link they want you to make, you know, that's what I would say when they put the sentence like this, right? They want you to draw some connection. And I have to warn against that, right? I don't know if you guys can see it like I do, but some of these sentences are composed in such a way that you're supposed to make this link between this word and that word, and they are two totally different things. And just because somebody says it, some authority says it, you're supposed to accept this, right? They frack with your mind in these kinds of sentences. They know how you think. So you got to be very wary. So right here, in this case, it says Rik is the I, Saman the self. This Saman, shadow, rests on that Rik. But they just said that Saman is the self. And now they say Saman is some kind of shadow. So what are you supposed to make of that, right? This Saman is the self. You could say that self is like light. And now they talk about shadow. So do they mean that you as a living being are emitting light and that this causes a shadow, which could be cause for materialization? I have no clue. Rik is the ear, Saman the mind. This Saman mind rests on that Rik ear. Therefore the Saman is sung and resting on the Rik. Sa is the ear, Ama the mind, and that makes Sama. Right? There's another Sanskrit word which means to hear. The verb is Shruti. Alright? Rik is the ear, Saman the mind. The mind rests on the ear. They say Shruti means to listen. Right? Shruti is a verb, means to listen. Don't know what I just said, but the definition, however, of that, the further definition of the word Shruti is, however, is to learn. Because they say, and here, of course, the mind comes into play, right? You can work with things that you hear in your mind. And they say that hearing is the way to learn. Shruti is the way to learn. And again, it sounds authoritarian. I think the other senses are just as important. If you, as a child, I don't know how it was with you guys, but they told me things were hot or whatever, dangerous. And I was like, okay, but experience beats all, So you stick your finger in the fire and find out, frack, it's hot. And this is how you learn. See? Simple as that. So this talk about the ear and the mind, this is about mind control. Yeah, I have no other way of putting it. This is about mind control. Just accept what you hear. Just do what the master says, is what this is saying. Because later on, this is also generally accepted in Indian philosophy, you got to have a master, right? You want to make progress on the spiritual path, you got to have a master. It's insane. You as a human being are perfectly equipped to do it yourself. Next. Rik is the white light of the eye, Saman the blue exceeding darkness. This Saman darkness rests on the Rik brightness. Therefore the Saman is sung as resting on the Rik. Sa is the white light of the eye, Ama the blue exceeding darkness, and that makes Sama. Next, now the person who is seen in the eye, he is Rik, he is Saman. Utka, Yugas, Brahman, the form of that person in the eye is the same as the form of the other person in the sun. The joints of the one, Rik and Saman, are the joints of the other. The name of the one, Ut, is the name of the other. Next. He is Lord of worlds beneath that, the self in the eye, and all of the wishes of men. Therefore all who sing the Vina sing him, and from him also they obtain wealth. So what's this self in the eye they're talking about? I think they're talking about light again, to be honest with you, but I have no clue. Next, he who knowing this sings, a Saman sings to both the Adidaivata and Adhyatma self, the person in the sun and the person in the eye, as one and the same person. He obtains through the one, he obtains the worlds beyond that and the wishes of the Devas. And he obtains through the other worlds beneath that and wishes of men. Therefore, an Udgatari priest who knows this may say to the sacrificer for whom he officiates, which leads to the last 9, but before we go there, it's the priest, right? You got to go to the priest, and then the priest will make for you a sacrifice. But of course you got to give your sacrifice to the priest, right? Right. You know where that's going, right? Because supposedly, these priests are the only ones that know how you're supposed to make this fracking sacrifice. It's a scam. Nine, the last one here. What wish shall I obtain for you by my songs? For he who knowing this sings a Saman is able to obtain wishes through his song. Yea, through his song. Next. Hold on, guys. Number 8. There were once 3 men well versed in Udgita: Silaka Salavatya, Kaikitiana, Dablia, and Pravana Gaivali. They said, "We are well versed in Udgita. Let us have a discussion on Udgita." They all agreed and sat down. Then Pravana Gaivali said, "Sirs, do you both speak first, for I wish to hear what the 2 Brahmanas have to say." Then Silaka Sarasvatya said to Kaikitiana Dalbia, "Let me ask you." "Ask," he replied, "what is the origin of Saman?" "Tone Svara," he replied. "What is the origin of..." I'm reading this wrong. Try this again. "What is the origin of Saman?" "Tone," he replied. "What's the origin of tone?" "Breath," he replied. "What's the origin of breath?" "Food," he replied. "What's the origin of food?" "Water," he replied. "What's the origin of water?" "That world," brackets open, heaven, brackets close, he replied. "And what's the origin of that world?" He replied, "Let no man carry the Saman beyond the world of the Svarga, heaven. We recognize, the Saman in the world of Svarga, for the Saman is extolled as Svarga, heaven." Next, then Silaka Sarasvatya to Kaikitiana Daiba. He said, "O Daiba, thy Saman is not firmly established, and if anyone were to say, 'Your head shall fall off if you be wrong,' surely your head would fall now." 7. "Well then, let me know this from you, sir," said Dalbia. "Know it," replied Silika Salavatya. "What is the origin of that world?" "Heaven." "This world," he replied. "And what is the origin of this world?" He replied, let no man carry the summon beyond this world as its rest. We place the summon in this world as it rests, for the summon is extolled as rest. Then said Brava Hana Gaivali to Silaka Salatvatya, your summon, the earth, O Sarasvati, has an end. And if anyone were to say, your head shall fall off if you be wrong, surely your head would fall now. Well then, let me know this from you, sir, said Sarasvati. Know it, replied Gaivali, which brings us to the end of this chapter. Huh. Ninth Skanda. What is the origin of this world? Ether, he replied. For all these beings take their rise from the ether and return into the ether. Ether is older than these. Ether is their rest. He is indeed the Udgita. Om is Brahman, greater than great. Parovarias, he is without end. Back to the first verse, says here, what is the origin of this world? Ether, it says, right? You guys remember the verse from Bhagavad Gita? I've told you a couple of times now. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego are the 8 elements of which this universe is made. Right? So the origins of this world is ether, which means that it's the way I tell you, it goes earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? That's the order in which I tell you these elements. And if you notice, it goes earth, which is like solid, water, which is like fluid, then air, which is like gaseous, right? And so you see that it starts with dense, then less dense, and it keeps getting less dense, you see? And it turns out that for trying to establish where the dense comes from, you got to look at the less dense. And that jives with their idea of an absolute world, which would be the least dense and the origin of everything. See? And for the material world in which we live, our ego is the least dense. And from ego flows intelligence. From intelligence flows the mind. From the mind flows ego. And from the mind flows ether. And from ether flows air. From air you get fire. From fire you get water. And from water you get earth. Right? So you got to be able to turn that sequence around. Go back and forth. Next is number 3. Atidan van Saunaka, having taught this Udgita to Udara Sandilya, said, as long as they will know in your family this Udgita, their life in this world will be greater than great. And thus also will their state in the other world. He who knows the Udgita, and meditates on it thus, his life in this world will be greater than great, and also his state in the other world. And then this repeat again, in the other world. This is like telling the reader that this is the end for this part, this repeating stuff. In the footnotes it says that ether might also be translated as space. And I think that's a good one. Next. 10th Skanda. When the Kurus had been destroyed by hailstones, Ushasti Kakriyana lived as a beggar with his virgin wife at Ibyagrama. Okay, so when the Kurus had been destroyed, they are talking about a time now 5,000 or 7,000 years ago. Because this is at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. The battlefield of the Kurus. Seeing a chief eating beans, he begged of him. The chief said, I have no more, except those which are put away for me here. Ushasti said, give me to eat of them. He gave him the beans, and said, there is something to drink also. Then said Ushasti, if I drank of it, I should have drunk what was left by another, and is therefore unclean. The chief said, were not these beans also left over, and therefore unclean? No, he replied, for I should not have lived if I had not eaten them, but the drinking of water would be mere pleasure. Right, so that's insane. This is insane, guys. You can do without food for months, but you can't do without water. Alright? Next, having eaten himself, Ushasti gave the remaining beans to his wife. But she, having eaten before, took them and put them away. Right, this also is like a strange story for me. You know, like with the Muslims, these people seem to have some kind of trouble accepting women as a human being. Yeah. You know, this wife who had already eaten doesn't make any sense, because she would have taken the food to her husband as she's supposed to. Anyway, she took them and put them away. Rising the next morning, Ushasti said to her, alas, if we could only get some food, we might gain a little wealth. Seriously? What the heck is that? The king here is going to offer a sacrifice. He should choose me for all the priestly offices. Wow. His wife said to him, look, here are those beans of yours. Having eaten them, he went to the sacrifice which was being performed. Strange story, this, guys. He went and sat down on the orchestra near the Udgatris, who were going to sing their hymns of praise. And he said to the Prastotri, the leader, Prastotri, if you, without knowing, the deity which belongs to the Prashtava, the hymns, etc., of the Prastrori, are going to sing it, your head will fall off. In the same manner he addressed the Udgatri. Udgatri, if you, without knowing the deity which belongs to the Udgita, the hymns of the Udgatri, are going to sing it, your head will fall off. In the same manner he addressed the Pratihatri. Patrihatri, if you, without knowing the deity which belongs to the Pratihara, the hymns of the Pratihara, are going to sing it, your head will fall off. 3 times, right? They stopped and sat down in silence. A little bit of the commentator, perhaps? In the footnotes here, they're talking about a shower of stones. This could also be like meteors, right? And another one, the commentator is at great pains to show that a priest may officiate without knowing the secret meanings here assigned to certain parts of the sacrifice, and without running any risk of punishment. Only if another priest is present, who is initiated, then the uninitiated, taking his place, is in danger of losing his head. Next. 11. Then the sacrificer said to him, I should like to know who you are, sir. He replied, I am Ushasti Kakrayana. He said, I looked for you, sir, for all these sacrificial offices, but no finding you. I choose others. But now, sir, take all the sacrificial offices. Ushasti said, very well, but let those, with my permission, perform the hymns of praise. Only as much wealth as you can give to them, so much give to me also. The sacrificer assented. Then the Prastotri approached him, saying, Sir, you said to me, Prastotri, if you, without knowing the deity which belongs to the Prastava, are going to sing it, your head will fall off. Which then is that deity? He said, breath, prana. For all these beings merge into breath alone, and from breath they arise. This is the deity belonging to the Prashtava. If, without knowing that deity, you had sung forth your hymns, your head would have fallen off, and you had been warned by me, after you had been warned by me. Prana, they're talking about prana, breath here. It's it reminds me a bit of I think it's Latin. I never had any study, any schooling in Latin or something, but spirit, I think it's called, spirit, is also translated as breath, right? And life. And there's a definite connection between life and breath, right? Spirit, respirate. Next. Then the Udgatri approached him, saying, Sir, you said to me, Udgatri, if you, without knowing the deity which belongs to the Udgita, excuse me, are going to sing it, your head will fall off. Which then is that deity? He said, the sun, Aditya. For all these beings praise the sun when it stands on high. This is the deity belonging to the Udgita. If, without knowing that deity, you had sung out your hymns, your head would have fallen off, after you had been warned by me. He's talking about the sun at its highest point now. This is noon, right? And apparently in these mythologies, there's the rising sun, and it's some personality or some aspect, right? And then there's noon and the setting sun. And these are like three aspects or three personalities. Next, then the Pratihatri approached him, saying, Sir, you said to me, Pratihatri, if you, without knowing the deity belonging to Pratihara, are going to sing it, your head will fall off. Which then is that deity? He said, food. Apparently the Sanskrit word for food is Ana. For all these beings live when they partake of food. This is the deity belonging to Pratihara. If without knowing that deity you had sung your hymns, your head would have fallen off after you had been warned by me. 12th. Now follows the Udgita of the dogs. Vaka Dalbia, or, as he was also called, Glava Maitreya, went out to repeat the Veda in a quiet place. A white dog appeared before him, and other dogs gathered around him, said to him, Sir, sing and get us food, we are hungry. The white dog said to him, Come to me tomorrow morning. Vaka Dalbia, or as he was also called, Glava Maitreya, watched. The dogs came on, holding together, each dog keeping the tail of the preceding dog in his mouth, as the priests do when they are going to sing praises with the Vaishpavamana hymn. After they had settled down, they began to say Hin. Om, let us eat. Om, let us drink. Om, may the divine Varuna, Pragapati, Savitri, bring us food. Lord of food, bring hither fruit. Food, not fruit. Bring it. Om. There are certain etymological fancies for assigning each deity to a certain portion of the Samaveda ceremonial. Thus, prana is assigned to the prastava, because both words begin with pra. Aditya is assigned to Udgita, because the sun is Ud. Ana, food, is assigned to Pratihara, because food is taken, Pratiriti, etc. And that's it for me for this week, guys. People that held out in the chat.
The very word secrecy.
Captain, Chalcedony, Del, Jules, Matty, Merbly, hey buddy, Surely You Jest, Vincent and Three Anons. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. I'll be back next week and we will continue this. Take care, everybody.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of scientific caste system.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening